Welcome to the Undertaker's Espresso Bar and Cafe in Tombstone, Arizona. This bar is one of the oldest buildings that was ever built here in Tombstone. The entire facility, which encapsulates 3 current businesses, was built in 1879. The construction of the place is actually adobe mud brick. A lot of it was dug out from under the floorboards and brought about because of the mining area of the town, giving access to the tunnels underground. So they used a lot of that extricated dirt in order to be able to create the bricks that make up our original walls, the original exterior of the building. And then the floors are the original. It's one of the buildings that has the most original set of floors. And as you might see later, in subsequent ghost hunts, we have actual tin siding that's been riveted to the floor to patch holes through where the wood kind of rotted out. The ceilings in the place are rough cut pine boards. That was about the cheapest and the lightest wood that could be brought in. At the time that this was built, there was not a railhead here, so everything had to be brought in by wagon or had to be reused from the surrounding areas. Now in 1879, this particular location where the Undertaker's Espresso Bar is, was actually the Undertaker's office that was owned by Watt and Tarble. One of them actually owned a house on the back, which has become part of our facility and now houses our kitchen, our bathrooms, and a back storage area. The building stayed the Undertaker's office for quite a few many years. There were several hundred, if not thousand, but I'm going to go with hundreds, that we can verify of bodies that were actually processed in here from people who suffered accidents or died of natural causes in the Tombstone area. Now, that kind of trauma leaves lingering spirits, and that is one of the things that we are known for, is having one of the most haunted places here in Tombstone, Arizona. Now, this building converted itself to a lot of things throughout the years. After Watt and Tarble decided to move their locations here in Tombstone, this ended up becoming a warehouse for the Wells Fargo Company. And right next door where Doc Holliday's is, that actually was the main part of the Wells Fargo office, and this became the warehouse for ore, for payroll, and for generalized cargo that came in off the Wells Fargo stages. So contrary to popular belief, this wasn't the stage stop where people climbed off and made their life here in Tombstone on their first day, but it's where all of the materials came in, the liquor, the wood, all of the types of things that continued to build the town throughout the years of its mining boom period. And that mining boom period lasted from about 1879 until about 1889. This building, however, survived that entire time. Never burned down in either of the 2 fires that they had, the floods that we've had over the years, nor the earthquakes that we've had. And yes, Arizona has earthquakes, and we've had 2 major earthquakes within the last 100 years that shook the town to pieces, but this particular building, I guess that adobe mud brick just stands up to anything. Now there's a lot of sections in here. Where we're sitting right now is actually the front side, or the customer side of the espresso bar. And this was the parlor where people would come and view their loved ones in the 1870s and the 1880s. Directly to the other side of the wall, which is to my left-hand side, that is where the morgue was. That's also where they parked the hearse and brought the wagons in. There's a lot of very unique things in there that we have not touched since the 1880s, including a trapdoor that leads to an area underground where the bodies were stored when it was much too hot to leave the bodies up here before they were processed. Also back in that area is an adobe bath. Kind of looks like a shower, but made out of adobe. And it sits over an open pit. Now, the hoist that was above that is where they used to hang the bodies, and they would clean the bodies, and they would drain them of blood there. We don't touch that particular area. That belongs to the people who were processed in that area, and we kind of leave that alone, as well as the trapdoor area. So this building has a lot of interesting history. Now, throughout the years afterwards, this became a store. It was a warehouse again. It also became part of the Wells Fargo Museum throughout the 1940s and 1950s when the Western movies and the TV show Tales of Wells Fargo was actually really popular. It became a theater throughout the 1970s and 80s. It was a shooting arcade for a little while, from what I understand. And then it turned into a clothing store, from a clothing store into what it is today, which is pretty much the best coffee and best espresso in southern Arizona. The place is now currently owned by my family. My son, Wyatt, my daughter, Abigail, are the primary proprietors and owners of the place, and they can be seen here on almost a daily basis, making sure that everybody has what they need. So the Undertaker's office from the 1870s that used to lay you to rest
now wakes you from the dead.